We were stargazing, him, okay, to find a shooting star, just look at a point that you're attracted to. I look straight at him, no you need to look at the sky.
Well, this is probably the most embarrassing moment of my life, but I'll share anyways.
In year 11th I liked this guy and I had been dropping hints for a while, and since they weren't getting me anywhere with a lot of encouragement from my best friend, who was convinced he liked me too, outright told him, I like you. His answer hurt a little, not gonna lie. What, that wasn't even funny? To which I had to clarify that I was in fact not joking, I'm being serious. And as it turns out my best friend was terribly wrong, because his answer was, well this is awkward, I actually like your best friend. The friendship with the guy got really awkward afterward because he kept making jokes about how I liked him. Hey, I'm sitting next to you, but this doesn't mean anything, don't get any ideas, completely platonic, you're like another dude to me, ha she wishes. Needless to say, I got over him quite quickly. When I was in high school, I had really low self-esteem in terms of dating. It was totally mind-blowing a girl would even be interested in me. That being said, I was talking to a girl I was interested in and she eventually sent me nudes. I had so little experience being friends with girls I assumed it was a standard friendly gesture that girls do for their guy friends. I wish I was joking about this. Straight up sitting on his lap when watching a movie, kissing his cheek, and nuzzling my head into his neck, plus multiple other obvious verbal and physical clues, but he thought I gave off mixed signals and only wanted to be friends. This is so dorky, but I liked a boy in high school, and he was nice and we'd talk on AIM a lot. One day, thinking I was being so brave, I wrote him, I've been locked inside your heart-shaped box for weeks, LMAO. I thought it was so cute and he was all, get out. Before my girlfriend was my girlfriend, she was just a friend I had a crush on, who texted me saying she F up, cause she drunk texted her crush the night before. I replied with, damn, was it bad, and had a conversation with her. Some 20 minutes later I realized she spent the whole night in question texting me.
There's a lot of dude stories in this thread, but I have to add one more.
2 of my friends invited me out to a park. These 2 were dating. When I showed up it was them, plus an extra woman. We hung out.
Played some games for a couple hours, then I grabbed my buddy and left. So, what did you think of friendly lady? She seems nice.
Flash forward the evening, he invites me out to the club.
When I show up, once again, new lady friend is there.
We get some drinks, dance for a bit. About 3/4 of the way through the night she leaned in and whispered in my ear, under this dress I'm not wearing any panties. Me. It's a great comfort thing. The look on her face was a mix of disbelief and insult. At the end of the night she was leaving with another guy. I waved and said, have fun, it was good meeting you, and when I turned back my buddy looked at me like I was the dumbest thing on the planet.
This one is a little different because we'd been going on dates and were clearly interested in each other. We just weren't exclusive or official yet. I asked him if he wanted to make it official, but could we make it an easy to remember date?
He looked at me and I said, oh wow, it's late, it's 11:59, oh crap, what's the date today? And he said, it's June 15th. We both grew up in the 6/16 area code and I said, oh, it's midnight, so it's not the 15th anymore. You know what's a really easy date to remember? He mulled it over for a minute and said, 9/11. I stared at him until he said, never forget, we got COVID married using the same 6/16 date, but we still laugh about that moment often. I was taking transit home from a New Year's party at a friend's bar. I ended up chatting with this beautiful woman about my age. Find out I'd just left the university she was finishing up at that year. And she was staying with some of her family in my neighborhood for the rest of the holidays. Generally hit it off pretty well. We end up having an animated, hilarious conversation for the hour-ish trip. As I go to get off at my stop she says, I'd love to get together for a drink before I leave town again. And my dumb ass says, yeah, that'd be great. Then I wave goodbye and hop off the streetcar. It took me about 14 steps to realize that 1. She wanted to exchange contact information so we could see each other again. 2. We didn't exchange that information. 3. I am colossally stupid as a person. If it makes you feel any better, I was chatting with this lovely young lady a couple of years ago. And she was super into me, or so I thought, and I also thought she was fascinating. Anyway, my body was being unruly because my job kept me mobile. I was eating a lot of junk food and keep weird sleeping habits. And my body didn't know what to do with it. She suggested dinner. And I mentioned as much to her, that we should go somewhere that wasn't too adventurous because my body was being weird lately. Yeah, that was one of those things you say and then immediately regret saying. She suddenly had to go visit her therapist the evening we were due to have our date, and then her therapist made her realize she wasn't ready for a relationship right now. It's one of the smoother exits I've ever seen someone pull off, I have to admit. Oh my poor guy. I had been flirting hardcore for years, complimenting him, comparing hand sizes, suggesting he needed someone to keep his bed warm, doing everything to be alone with him. But I think the biggest one was once after a Pathfinder game he said it was time to go home and I said your place or mine, to which I got, I'm heading to my place. I was so frustrated I literally grabbed him and asked him out.
Now I wake up every day next to the best man I've ever known. Well, this hurts typing it out. Male massage therapist here. At the time of my stupidity I was 21 to 22-ish, a longtime family friend.
From another state came to stay at my parents' house to visit our state for a while. This girl is gorgeous, I was always attracted to her when I was a kid. Anyways, she has a jacked up back from post-military life. She asks for a massage ends. I step out of the room for her to change. She put a towel on, comes to the door, opens it, and asks if I want to come in and cuddle for a bit. Years later still regret not taking up her offer.
Guy here, I told a girl on MSN years ago that I had a crush on her. She replied, "It's mutual," and I didn't know what that meant so I ghosted her. Oh my god. You were literally using the most revolutionary tool for information sharing, and yet didn't bother to look up the definition of a word, lol. A new monk arrives at the monastery. He is assigned to help the other monks in copying the old texts by hand. He notices, however, that they are copying copies and not the original books. So, the new monk goes to the head monk to ask him about this. He points out that if there was an error in the first copy, that error would be continued in all of the other copies. The head monk says, "We have been copying from the copies for centuries. But you make a good point, my son," so, he goes down into the cellar with one of the copies to check it against the original. Hours later, nobody has seen him, so, one of the monks goes downstairs to look for him. He hears sobbing coming from the back of the cellar and finds the old monk leaning over one of the original books crying. He asks what's wrong. "UFers," he says, with anger and sadness in his eyes. The word was celebrate. What word did they read instead? Celibate, meaning not having sex. Guy here, in high school a girl who I had barely spoken to asked if I wanted to be her boyfriend. I thought she was kidding so I replied sure. Then she told everyone we were together and every time she would see me in the halls she would make hearts with her fingers. Even one time she asked if I thought she was pretty. I replied yes and she told me she thought I was pretty. After all of this I still thought she was kidding. Looking back at it now she might have actually liked me.
I am a guy but I missed an obvious sign once. Me and a friend were waiting for a few others to show up, and they called saying they would be an hour late, because they ran down to the university to pick up a buddy. My female friend turned to me and said, "Well, I'll just have to sit on your face until they get here." I replied that it probably wouldn't be comfortable. It clicked in about 2 minutes later and I was lucky she was far nicer than I am smart. Obligatory I'm a guy, sorry, and I've had pretty low self-esteem for most of my life. One time my friend, a girl I liked, told me I could touch her anywhere I wanted to. I sorta wrapped my arm around her waist in a friendly side hug sort of way, and she immediately smiled, grabbed my other hand and put it on her boob. I was like, oh, cool.
Obligatory. Not a girl, but I was once talking to a girl I'd met at the coffee shop I hung out at. She asked if I had plans that night. I responded that I planned on doing my normal, getting really drunk, eating something from the freezer and passing out. She responded that she was going to do the same but worried that it would bum her out to drink and watch movies alone. I perked right up and said that she should for sure do it. F expectations. I finished my coffee, turned and said, "Have a good night," and walked off. Later that night I was drinking and listening to some music when I replayed the conversation in my head.
The realization slowly washed over me. Goddammit, I met another girl who was a friend of hers and she said that the only reason she was going to that particular coffee shop was because she liked talking to me and I was there a lot. I guess she took it as an outright rejection, because I didn't see her there again. I saw on Facebook that she had a boyfriend a few weeks later, whereas I was still drinking alone and masturbating in my room. I was trying to flirt with him all night but I'm a terrible flirt so I didn't really know what I was doing. At one point I sat on the arm of his chair and he tentatively put his hand on my waist. I put my hand over his and he immediately pulled his hand away. Oh no, he was trying to stop me falling off the chair and I made it awkward. Anyway, we're getting married. I rode my bike across town to hand deliver my Sweet 16 invitation. Apparently his dad told him after I left that I was completely into him. He didn't believe his dad as I was out of his league. Jokes on him though because we got married 2 months ago. Would you ever consider dating an older woman? I'm 2 years older. He said no, so I dropped it of course. Later he asked me out and I asked him about not dating older women, and he said that he thought I was talking about my friend, that his friend had to point out that I was talking about myself, and then he felt like an idiot. Lol. I mean, to be honest, if someone asked me if I would consider dating an older woman, I would assume they were talking about someone 10 to 20 years older. I wouldn't even think of someone 2 years older than me as an older woman. Guy here, my elementary crush hit up on me 10 years after I last saw her. She wanted me to help her out in a uni project, but I told her I can't leave our house unattended because I was alone. So she asked me if she can go to our house instead. I played Gran Turismo while waiting for her to arrive, and decided to take on the 3-hour challenge. She brought with her a couple of Jack Daniels bottles. She's a damn heavy drinker and she decided to watch me play while we are drinking because it was a lot safer drinking while virtually driving. She then showed me a lot of her sketches of her lingerie work. She was hoping to become a fashion designer. I was too engrossed in the game that I failed to realize she showed me her photos wearing her work. After asking me what do I think about her, I said, "You're blocking my view." Never heard of her since, and never saw her again.